What it is, I am Controlled Pairs, and this is Controlled Pairs Gaming. Welcome to the LKO show. Guys, today we are going ham on some research and development. I am really excited about this mission. What you're looking at right now is the Mark III shuttle clone that I have designed for the LKO show. It's going to assist us in continuing to build the CPSS up at in a low Kerbal orbit. And today we have a lot of testing going on in preparation for our big mission next episode. First, we are going to be taking the inaugural flight of the Mark III shuttle that you are looking at right now. Additionally, we have quite the payload in the cargo bay that we need to test out. But first, let's go over the shuttle. It is a shuttle clone. It uses liquid fuel boosters on the side. Those liquid fuel boosters pump into the center tank, which is just a fuel tank. And then that fuel tank then pumps into the shuttle itself, which is powered by 3 massive Skipper liquid fuel engines. As soon as we finish burning this entire fuel tank, we will then revert to using the inline Thud liquid engines, the Radio Mark 55s, and that is actually how we will conduct the majority of our orbital maneuvers. So designing a shuttle is really difficult. I'd be happy to explain it to you guys. If that's another video that you think you would have some interest in seeing, let me know. I'd be happy to teach you guys how to make this thing. It is pretty sweet. Now, let's get to what I think is the fun part, and that is what is in the cargo bay. So let's go ahead and open this guy up. And inside, you're going to see some pretty strange looking stuff. The first thing you see is this Mark II command pod. And basically, what we're going to do with this thing is we're going to take it up to the CPSS if it works correctly, and we're going to dock it. It's going to have 2 functions. The first function is going to be as an escape module. Every good space station has to have some sort of escape pod, right? So kind of like the Soyuz on the International Space Station, this thing is going to be able to help 3 Kerbals to escape. That's why you see the radial parachutes. It's powered only by Werner engines. So it's got 360 units of liquid fuel and oxidizer there, and it's powered by 12 Werner engines, allowing it to go forward and backward and translate up, down, left, right, etc. And it's also going to function as a tug. So since it has those Werner engines, it'll be able to push a pretty good amount of mass in and around the in space. And so it'll be able to assist us in constructing stuff in the future. And so I'm pretty pumped about that. And finally, what we've got down here is what I am calling the space mobility vehicle. It is nothing but a couple RCS tanks with a battery and a little command seat on top, an external command seat. And yeah, you get the idea. It functions basically like a space motorcycle, and I'm really hoping that the center of mass is good enough that I can basically just go zooming around space in this thing, and it'll just be a really cool little mobility vehicle to have up at the CPSS. So, without further ado, I hope you don't mind my long explanation, but I'm pretty pumped about this one today. Let's go ahead and take it out to the launch pad and see how this thing goes. Alright guys, so we find ourselves on the launch pad. First thing we're going to do is make sure that all of our flaps, all of our ailerons are working correctly and that we can translate, rotate. All that stuff does look good. Then we're going to check our staging over here. Liquid fuel boosters look good. Everything on the spacecraft itself looks good. The staging is in the correct order. And all that is good to go. Next, I'm going to activate my SAS and my RCS. I'm going to engage our resources up there top. And all I need to see right now really is our orbital information so I can watch our apoapsis as we ascend. Now, I'm doing a live commentary while simultaneously flying a very complicated mission. I'm sorry if I end up talking really fast, but I thought it was important to narrate this as we went rather than do a post commentary so I could explain exactly what I'm doing, particularly with how complicated this is. So I've throttled up all the way now. I'm going to fire the engines and initiate liftoff. So we start coming up. You can see that we're pitching over just a little bit more than I would like initially with the shuttle. It flew very different without a payload. I think that's just because our center of mass is a little bit higher in the fuselage than it usually is because we put the escape capsule in the space mobility vehicle there. And it's still controllable, so I'm not hugely concerned about it. It does mean, though, that later on as we continue to drain these boosters, it's going to want to pitch over significantly. And hopefully we can counteract that by just throttling down until we drain those boosters. But other than that, everything seems to be going pretty well. And yeah, there you can see the nose is starting to pitch back. But SAS and the Werner engines seem to be holding it in place for the most part. So we continue to accelerate. The thrust-to-weight ratio is looking really good. The engines that we have on board are very easily capable of lifting this thing. And we're almost done with those engines. So I'm making sure to carefully watch the pitch until we completely drain them. And as soon as we do, I am going to separate them with spacebar and then throttle to the maximum right now. Alright, good. I have complete control of it again. I was a little bit concerned there as we separated those liquid fuel boosters because the nose was pitching over way more than I was comfortable with. But fortunately, we have initiated a pretty good gravity turn. We are parked at 45 degrees and accelerating quickly. As soon as we get over 20k, I'm going to feel much more comfortable with where we're at. And everything else is looking good to go. If we check our vessel information, our thrust to weight ratio is 1.6 and climbing as we burn fuel, which is very good. And our apoapsis is currently getting pushed over 24k, and it looks like we'll be able to achieve orbit, assuming, of course, that nothing goes wrong. But this is Kerbal Space Program, so oftentimes it does. I do plan to push this up to about an 80k orbit, where we can actually do the testing of the escape module as well as the space mobility vehicle. But I think we'll be able to achieve that just fine. The only other thing I am a little bit concerned about is the heating down here in these engines. When I was initially testing the wow, it's flashing pretty good. When I was initially testing the shuttle, I did get the same kind of heating effects. I'm hoping that we hold, and I don't think we're going to run into any issues, but you really never know. I used cubic octagonal struts to attach those skippers to the fuselage of the spacecraft, so they don't really do a good job at dissipating heat, which is why we're getting so many heating effects. But as soon as we get our apoapsis to 80k, we can kill the engines, allowing them to cool until we circularize. And then during our circularization burn, we should be able to detach our fuel tank here and finish with our other engines, which will get rid of all this heating here, which will be good. So our apoapsis is crossing over 80 now. I killed the engines, jump out to the map view, and then add a maneuver node at the apoapsis, which isn't completely necessary. I can always circularize without it, but I do want to be precise, particularly as we have 3 innocent Kerbals on board. I wouldn't want to go flying back into the atmosphere while we're out testing. That would be highly unfortunate. So manipulate the node just a tad. It looks like, there we go. That'll be good. 80 and 84. I'll take it. Orient on the maneuver node. Jump back into the spacecraft. I'm going to go ahead and flip over the shuttle, because as we drain fuel in the fuel tank, it's going to want to pitch up. Next, I'm going to open up our cargo bay and extend our solar panel, make sure that we are generating electricity, and for the first time we can see that payload, and it seems to be intact, having suffered no major damage or anything crazy during the initial lift stage. Our burn is going to be a 48-second burn, but I already know I have to separate this fuel tank in the middle of that burn, so it's going to take a little bit longer, so I'm actually going to start firing up now. And because I can't have those engines at max throttle because the space shuttle will want to tip over, and we got to worry about the heating issues simultaneously, it is a good thing that we started the burn early. And even under acceleration, the payload inside seems to be in working order just fine. I'm a little irritated that we're burning so much monopropellant on the way up, but that's alright, we've got plenty extra. The nose is wanting to pitch up just a tad, but we can fight it easily with the SAS and controlling the throttle. I'm looking forward to getting rid of this tank for sure, which we will get to do momentarily. Come on, 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 come on. We are losing altitude now, which I do not like, so we're going to go ahead and kill the engines, separate, translate away from the fuel tank, and engage those inline engines. Let's get the heck out of here, man. Nose up a little bit, actually. Hopefully we can still achieve orbit. We wasted a lot of time in that circularization. We maybe needed a little bit more altitude. But turn on stability assist, orient up. Oh, come on. We're falling under 75k right now, which, as long as we stay over 70k, we'll be able to achieve orbit. But this is just too close. I do not like what I'm seeing at all right now. So, see how far behind the apoapsis we fell. That's a shame. Come on, come on, come on. We're trying to, right now we lifted up our nose and we're going to continue accelerating. We're trying to bring that apoapsis back to where our shuttle is and then circularize from there. We'll end up circularizing just over 70k rather than the 80k I planned. But that's why I gave myself 10 kilometers worth of cushion. So if anything did go wrong, like it just did, we can still circularize. And I think we're going to be able to. I'm watching our liquid fuel up there in the top right. We're falling under 1,000 units now. But our speed is such that it looks like we're going to be able to circularize without too much issue here at the very, very end. Oh, man. But I'm going to have to just glide it in perfectly whenever this mission's over, for sure. I'm going to bring the shuttle back down. Alright, so our apoapsis has caught up to us, and I'm just burning prograde now. And we are in orbit. Circularized right at 72. I will take it. Wow. Whew. Okay, glad that's over. Let's change our view over to free, and let's get to work, man. So, naturally, the most adventurous pilot on the crew, Valentina Kerman, has volunteered to test the escape module. She is going to jump out, and let's get her in there. Go ahead and grab on and board. All right. Now we are going to decouple her. Everything looks good. Change to a locked view so I can safely control her exit. And let's get out of here. Looking good. How about that? Really easy to control, which I'm happy with. Everything seems to be in working order. It can translate, it can go forwards and backwards just fine. And so it looks like, as far as the tug apparatus is concerned, it's going to be able to work just fine. Alright, next, let's go ahead and get Bill Kerman out. He has volunteered ever so graciously to test the space mobility vehicle. So let's take him over here. And this is going to be the fun part. I'm actually really excited about this. I hope it works as well as I envisioned. Get on there, bro. Come on. Alright, he is on board. Looks like a space dirt bike or something. Oh, heck yes. That is awesome. I'll take it. How are we doing on fuel? Yeah, that's fine. We just want to test it out. Man, I'm pumped about this thing. This is cool. Look at this. Alright, screenshot moment. It has to happen. Oh, that's awesome. Alright, let's see how it handles. Rotates really, really easily. I'll take that. And the thrust to weight ratio on it is just really high. I could actually probably go down to 4 engines and it would work just as well. Because it is super, super maneuverable. Which, don't get me wrong, I'll take it. It's awesome. Alright, let's just go cruising. Oh, it's awesome, man. Super maneuverable, super fun. I like it. Like it a lot. Alright, let's put it away. This will be the challenging part, because it is so maneuverable. Oh, man. There's got to be like an opportunity. There's got to be a good shuttle picture here, real quick. God, the thing is, this. Oh, it's so sweet. I love it. Love it, love it, love it. There we go. Alright, let's get this thing all docked up. So this will be a little bit of a challenge. I'll take it, though. Set this as our target. And let's go home. Let's go. We are hurting on RCS. We might be leaving this prototype in space. That's okay. I'll get over there. Alright. I'm trying to make just really small adjustments as we slide back in here. I'm falling under 11 units of fuel, which sucks. But I really just want to put it back in the cargo bay and see if it survives reentry. I'm not going to be able to dock it, actually, because we've got the wrong size here, which is okay. Yeah, it doesn't fit. It's all good, though. Hope you enjoyed your joyride, buddy. Let's get out of here. What a successful little mission, though. Good stuff. So leave the seat. Whoa. Teleport much? Go ahead and retract those solar panels and close up the cargo bay. Come back over here and get him back safely inside the shuttle, having successfully and very pleasantly tested the space mobility vehicle. That thing is fun. You guys should all go make something like that, because it is a blast. I'm going to have fun with it up at CPSS for sure. Alright, we are all boarded up. Now let's complete our test by bringing Valentina home safely. So we are going to completely monitor this re-entry of hers. We're going to try to put her in the ocean right off of KSC. We just want to make sure that the escape pod is in fact survivable. So now that we're on the opposite side of the planet from KSC, we go ahead and orient retrograde. And since we only have those Werner engines, I'm just using H to translate forward and easily bringing that periaps down. And we are going to bring it down to about 11, and then we are going to stay oriented retrograde, jump out of the map view, and let's watch and make sure that she gets home safely, which I think she will. She will be just fine. I am going to disable RCS though. The Werner engines are attached to control through the RCS, and so that caused a little bit of shaking, and we actually just ran out of electric charge. Maybe I could consider putting some batteries on here. I hope I can still deploy the parachutes. That would be unfortunate, Valentina. Quite. And we are 10.11k away from the shuttle, so man, I really hope this goes in your favor. Guys, this is why we do things like F5 before you do crazy stuff. You know, lesson learned. Come on. Just tumbling helplessly through the atmosphere. We are under 70k now, falling below 55k, and so we are in the atmosphere. We should get heating effects soon, and then shortly after, know whether or not Valentina is going to live. But she's a resilient Kerbal. I'm sure she can live. Oh, man. Okay. Falling under 45k now. Oh, man. We should start seeing heating effects here in the next 30 seconds or so. I bet you we lose these Werners, but that's alright. If we're in an escape pod coming down from the space station, then having control over your tug is probably no longer the priority, as long as you can deorbit. Alright, we get those re-entry effects. We might lose this fuel tank as well. I didn't put a heat shield on here, because let's be real, this Rocco Max can handle it. So we might lose that. But the pod should be just fine. We're decelerating now under 1500 meters per second. Those heat effects should start going away, and it doesn't look like we're going to lose the fuel tank, which is a pleasant surprise. I'll take it. And now the moment of truth. As soon as we get under 250 meters per second, I'm going to deploy our 2 radial parachutes, presuming, of course, that they are functioning. And if they aren't, then Valentina is going to get a world record high dive. Oh, thank goodness. All right, so Valentina's parachutes do deploy, and it appears that she is going to live. Let's hope those 2 radials are enough to slow all this mass down, and it appears it is. We are now safely falling at 11 meters per second. Might get a little bit of damage on that fuel tank on the way down, but I will happily take a damaged fuel tank after all that has just occurred. and Valentina survives. So we go ahead and recover her. Next, we got to bring the space shuttle home. And I actually haven't got a chance to practice the reentry yet. And so that'll be a good opportunity to give this thing a go and see exactly how well it can re-enter and then land at KSC. So let's go over to the Mark III shuttle and fly it. And it still has plenty of electric charge on board. I definitely wanted to check that right away as soon as we got here. KSC is underneath us, so we are going to warp all the way back around. As fast as we can, which unfortunately, because we are orbiting so low, is not very fast at all. But thanks to the magic of movie editing, I can cut off the boring stuff, so you guys are only seeing the cool stuff. Come on. Alright. So now, the first thing we're going to do before we deorbit is quick save, because things are very likely to go wrong. Next, we are going to orient retrograde and do a little burn, nice and slow. I'm bringing that periaps back down to, let's say, 15K. I've still got plenty of liquid fuel and oxidizer left. No worries there. Alright guys, so the last little bit here is a post commentary. It took me 3 attempts to successfully get the space shuttle back into the atmosphere and successfully land, and I didn't want to be dishonest with you and just edit magic it, so I'm being upfront. Took 3 shots, but we did manage to do it successfully. And 15K for the periaps was the magic number. It just took a few attempts because our center of mass was a little bit off and we were getting some overheating effects. But here you see the final attempt, which ended successfully. As we came back into orbit, we flare the air brakes, and we also burn off the rest of our fuel because it was the fuel that was causing us to spin in the previous attempts. And so I want that at least down to like 100 units, so it's a little bit lighter and it doesn't throw us off quite as much. During the testing of the shuttle, I was practicing my landings with very, very little fuel in the fuselage, and so the addition of the extra fuel on those last few attempts did result in it being very difficult to control. And here on this final attempt, it did look like I was going to overshoot KSC, but I pretty easily fixed that by making sure SAS was oriented prograde and then conducting an aerobraking maneuver directly over the top of KSC by flaring the flaps and basically turning perpendicular to my direction of travel in order to reduce the speed. Now we're pointed directly down, and we're actually falling at about 250 meters per second, and I wanted to be very careful to pull up nice and slow because this thing flies like a brick, and if I pull up too fast, I end up toppling, and so I had to be very, very, very careful with the maneuvers that I was putting into the controls, and I wanted to make sure that the nose of the aircraft was actually staying within like 3 to 5 degrees of the prograde vector, because it's incredibly touchy, not completely unlike the actual space shuttle, which is also flown like a brick and flown by a computer. So I guess I get brownie points for at least controlling it myself for the most part. I'm still bleeding off the last bit of that fuel. The additional thrust makes it a little bit easier to actually control the space shuttle, particularly in the atmosphere and during the descent. I kill off that time warp and we're on final approach to KSC. We're coming in at kind of an awkward angle, so I have to use the rudder at the last second, and I end up coming in about a third of the way down the runway, actually getting over the top of it before lowering the gear, engaging the brakes, and deploying my drogues. Guys, I'll let you enjoy the last bit of the landing on your own. Thanks so much for staying tuned for the entire episode. This one was incredibly busy, and the next one's going to be even better, so stay tuned. As always, thank you so much for watching the video. If you like my content, please consider subscribing to the channel and showing your support. I greatly appreciate it. And until next time, this is Controlled Pairs, signing off.